What's up, guys? We're going to review a movie from 1982 called The Seduction that I'm quite infatuated with, and that fits in with the theme of this movie. So anyway, let's review it.
Hello.
Jamie.
The Seduction stars Morgan Fairchild, Andrew Stevens, and is directed by David Schmoller. What's up, guys? Welcome to a catalog review. This is one for me. I was scrolling Tubi. I'm always looking at those early 80s thrillers, slashers, whatnot, and I came upon this one called The Seduction, starring Morgan Fairchild. It did look familiar to me, but I can't tell you if I remember seeing the poster for this movie or even hearing the name, but I was automatically drawn to it because it's about stalkers.
Morgan Fairchild, alone, frightened, trapped like an animal. Now she's fighting back with the only weapon she has, herself.
And I think a lot of slasher movies have stalking in them for a variety of reasons. You might have like a Michael Myers that stalks just because he's curious and he wants to kill. But then you have those that are just completely seduced by someone, like this movie. And so much so that you think there's no way they can't love you because of how much you love them. And we'll get into the psychology of that. And then there's also like friendship stalking. There are people that they're just so desperate for another person's friendship that it can become stalking, you know, and stalking is something that's still here to stay. You know, you have cyber stalking, you have stalking from, you know, before the internet and all that, you know, just somebody literally walking up to your door, and that happens in this movie, happens in real life. And I think that's what makes movies like this so effective. But I urge you guys to check out this movie if you've never heard of it, never seen it. I think it's pretty effective, and it kind of shocks me that it's a 4.9 out of 10 on IMDb. But to be fair, a lot of the movies that I love probably factor within that range. Maybe this is just for a niche type of audience. I don't know. It's classy sleaze. That's what I would call it. It's shot very well, beautifully directed film by David Schmoller, who also directed Tourist Trap, one of my favorite 80s slashers. But it has the sleaze factor of the 80s. There's plenty of like nudity and I wouldn't say excessive violence, but it's of a different time, right? Like this movie, I don't think some of the stuff in this movie would really go over that well today. I could be wrong. I don't know. It's just of a different time frame. But anyway, let's give you a quick plot synopsis. Our main character here is Jamie, played by Morgan Fairchild. She is a news anchor. And there's this guy, Derek, played by Andrew Stevens, who happens to be a photographer. So they're both pretty successful professionally. But he is highly infatuated with her. It doesn't really tell like when this all started, but he is just completely smitten with her. He is obsessed with her. He has pictures of her covering his walls. The opening of the movie is Jamie swimming naked in a swimming pool, and he happens to live close to her, and so he can see in full view, and of course with the help of his lens on his camera, he's taking pictures of her swimming naked. She does have a boyfriend by the name of Brandon, but they are not moving in together. She even goes so far to say to her friend that she doesn't want to, for lack of a better phrase, depend on a man. She wants to be independent. This is later when she knows that she's being stalked, but she refuses to depend on Brandon to save her.
We're not murderers.
Which I thought was refreshing since this came out in 1982. If you remember in the 80s, there was a movement of independent and strong women. You had movies like Working Girl. You had Aliens that came out and Sigourney Weaver kicking ass. You had Terminator 2. So this was 1982, around that time frame. And the character Jamie fit right in with that mold. Now, I love the way this movie deals with stalking, and it shows it in a believable fashion. She goes to the authorities, this Detective Max, to try to arrest him. And Max says, did he hit you? Did he break into your house? And none of these things happen. So Derek is a smart guy. He knows what he can get away with. And there's only so much the law can do. And he even tells her, hey, if he does it again, let us know. But there's a line that has to be crossed in terms of like violence or, you know, even breaking in. This is relatable stuff. A lot of people deal with this, with having a monkey on your back, this guy or even a woman that, you know, they know the law and they could show up right in your yard. And there's only so much you can do legally to them. And this movie addresses that. And it even gets into the psychology of it. One of the characters, she mentions this Clarenbolt syndrome, which is another name for it is erotomania, where the stalker, they believe that the victim is just as infatuated with them as they are of them. And there's this one scene where Derek, he literally like rushes her when she opens the door, and he's like snapping photos in her face and just all over her. And it's kind of violent.
Everything except protection.
Hi, Jamie.
Would you get out of here?
Come on, wet your lips. Scream.
Will you stop it? Leave me alone! Get out of my house!
And she's screaming for him to get off of her. And then eventually Brandon, her boyfriend, has to take matters into his own hands and beat the shit out of him. This guy is so delusional that after Brandon, you know, pummels him, he tells Jamie, thank you, with a smile on his face. And he truly believes that she is impressed with him taking her picture. And just a sidestep to share a personal story without going into too much detail. When I was in the military, I dealt with a lot of different personality types. I supervised a lot of different personality types. And I did come upon this one guy who fit the description of this movie perfectly. And he was dating this girl, but he took it so far that he ended up, getting in trouble and being incarcerated. And after they let him out, he went right back to her window at 2:00 in the morning. And this girl was afraid for her life. And I'd never seen anyone so obsessed with another human being like in this instance. I'll never forget it. And it was pretty eye-opening how dangerous stalking can be. And it doesn't just happen with people that aren't in relationships. This was an instance where they were in a relationship, they broke up, and he didn't want to take no for an answer. But back to the movie, I absolutely adored this movie so much that I ended up watching it twice, just because of how beautifully shot it was by David Schmoller. You know, this wasn't like a low-rent, video nasty style type movie. You know, it didn't look like a 16 millimeter type movie. No, this looked like beautiful 35 millimeter, well shot, great coverage. It looked like there was a nice budget behind this movie. I guess that's what I'll say. And I think the story had a lot of meat to it. You know, it wasn't just superficial. They tried to explain why Derek is the way he is. There's even this coworker of Derek's by the name of Julie that is really, you know, she has the hots for him. This is Andrew Stevens. And most stalkers don't look like Andrew Stevens, by the way. I'm sure some of them do, but most of them don't. But they acknowledge that, you know, they acknowledge that he is a good looking guy, but that doesn't matter. He could still be completely screwed up in the head. And this character, Julie, she likes Derek, and he goes so far as to tell her that he's engaged. And in his mind, maybe he believes he's engaged. Who knows? He's so screwed up in the head. He's just obsessed with Jamie. Now, Morgan Fairchild, this might be the only movie I've ever seen her in, but she did a lot of TV back in the 80s, I remember. One of the most beautiful creatures to ever walk this planet, okay? And I think she was perfectly cast for this movie. And I loved her performance. I didn't think she overplayed it. I think she had a specific way that she wanted to play this character, this victim. I think she wanted to portray her in a strong manner and not be like a damsel in distress and want to stand up for herself. But she is caught off guard by Derek quite often in the movie, but she always bounces back. And I like characters like this. And she really stands up in the end. And there is a scene where Derek really crosses the line and she is put to the test and she has to really stand up for herself.
Everything except a choice.
I'm not a violent person. You might have to become one.
Jamie's an interesting character because she's not really for guns. You know, she likes to have a peaceful lifestyle. But I think the lesson in this movie is that eventually you kind of have to protect yourself because, you know, you're going to have situations in your life where the only thing standing between you and death is having a weapon of some sort. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I think this movie might have a little trouble coming out today in this current climate because it does deal with sexual assault Not that that's not covered in this day and age, but it has its own opinions about things, about, you know, whether you should have a gun, how you should stand up for yourself, and just the idea of stalking in general. Also, this is produced by Irwin Yablans, so there's your connection to Halloween that I always put in like every video. Irwin Yablans, of course, we all know that he had a heavy hand in the creation of the first Halloween. This was Avco Embassy. I think this might have been the last movie out of Avco Embassy. They also did The Fog. Not saying Avco did Halloween, but Irwin Yablans, he worked under Avco Embassy for part of his career. And also, there's a connection I found to like Maxine in this movie. Because remember in Maxine where there is the Night Stalker killings going on at the same time as what's going on with Maxine? Well, there's these sweetheart murders that are going on along the same time as everything that's happening in this movie. And you are unsure if Derek is actually the sweetheart killer. But I like that, you know, this was a unique thriller. I wouldn't say it's a slasher. It's more of a thriller. And it's more of a psychotic horror movie with, you know, a stalker type thriller. But guys, check this out. It's on Tubi. I'm giving it a high purchase worthy. I had a blast with this movie. And I think it's just one of those really intoxicating flicks. Definitely has a De Palma flavor to it. I was getting Dressed to Kill vibes for sure. Definitely check this one out on Tubi. It's on there right now. I'm going to pick up the Blu-ray from Shout Factory before it's all gone, because you can't even buy it on Shout Factory's website anymore. So you got to get it through like Amazon or eBay. So I'm going to order it too. But let me know what you guys think of the Seduction. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free for Fridays. Follow my Drumdums on my socials. Support me on Patreon. Buy me a coffee. You know, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day. And Drumdum out.